Well, this Wallet Wednesday, death awaits you with a calculator and financial spreadsheet. Estate planning. It is not the most exciting or cheery subject, but when done correctly, it sets your family up for generations to come. And it can make everything easier for your loved ones as they figure out what's next. So here were some tips during this Estate Planning Awareness Week. We have Brett Norris, Vice President of Portfolio and Wealth Management at Ferguson Wellman. Good morning.
Good morning. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I think this is an important topic to tackle. I know it's one that a lot of people kind of don't want to think about, but it's that forethought that I think can really make all the difference. Why is estate planning important?
Yeah, so estate planning is important because if you pass away without a plan, right, courts will decide what happens to your assets in terms of how they're distributed based on state laws. And oftentimes those state laws don't reconcile nicely with what your individual goals might be.
Right. There will be a plan, but it might not be the one you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So maybe more than just making a will. What kind of goes into this whole conversation?
Yeah. So most, common estate plans do involve a will, certainly, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg, right? There are a variety of other documents that are really necessary. So if you think about it, you have revocable living trust, right? You have advanced directives for health care, powers of attorney, and even beneficiary designation forms. And all of that comprehensively is what helps to ensure that your goals are going to be met in the event that something happens to you.
I think a lot of people sometimes might think, I'm not on any Forbes top whatever list. Why do I need to estate plan? Is this something that's really for anyone?
Yeah, one of the most common misconceptions that we hear is that estate planning is only useful for the ultra wealthy. And in reality, nothing could be any further from the truth, right? We always tell folks that, if you own assets and you have loved ones that you care about, right, it's important to have a plan in place to ensure that your wishes are going to be, met after you're gone, right, and that you're safeguarding the interest of your loved ones.
Yeah. So where do we start? I think that's probably the most overwhelming part for a lot of folks.
Sure. So, if you think about kind of different life stages, kind of early on in life, you're beginning your career, right? Perhaps you're getting married, starting a family. That's a great time to kind of establish the first iteration of a plan. And you do that typically by working with, an estate planner, an attorney, someone who can help draft those documents. But before you do that, you really need to be thinking about different family dynamics and what your individual goals are for your hard-earned money, right? Where do you want it to go after you're gone?
What kind of documents do you need to be gathering to have a successful plan?
Yeah, so a lot of the documents we talked about earlier, right? So a will typically dictate, where your assets go after you're gone, right? Revocable trust are a great flexible tool that'll allow for, ongoing management of those assets while you're alive. You can modify it as you see fit. But then, too, that will dictate where assets go after you're gone. The powers of attorney help to appoint someone to make decisions on your behalf, in the event that you can't speak for yourself, right?
Right.
And, of course, healthcare directives are great because, that helps to communicate your preferences for medical care.
Yeah.
In that event, you can't speak for yourself as well.
What are some of the most common mistakes that you see made when people kind of go through this process?
Yeah, so you hit on it earlier, right? The most common mistake is people, they think that estate planning doesn't apply to me, right?
Yeah.
I don't have enough money or whatever. So, and that, again, couldn't be any further from the truth. But then, too, when people do create those documents, they have the plan in place, they fail to realize that it should be dynamic, right? It's going to evolve as your life changes. And so, our advice typically is that, once the plan is in place, certainly if a major life event occurs, right, update those documents relative to that change. But then, too, take a look at it every 3 to 5 years to make sure that those, documents in that plan are going to carry out your wishes after you're gone. Yeah,
and having that more, ongoing conversation, I think helps kind of normalize it as well and make it less of a taboo topic, Maybe not the Thanksgiving dinner table as a place to start, but, float the idea now. Get that conversation going.
Absolutely.
Brett, we appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And if you want to learn more during this estate planning week, if you need some advice about keeping your finances healthy, check out our Wallet Wednesday section of Koin.com. You can find some more tips from Ferguson Wellman as well.